All right, it is 6:30. A quorum of the board is present. This meeting has been duly called, and that notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551. Will you please stand with us as we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this district. We thank you for who you are. God, we just pray that you'll be with us today. I pray that you'll lead us and guide us as we discuss all things. God, I pray that you would just go before us. God, I pray that you'd give us wisdom in all areas. We love you and thank you. It's in Jesus' name. Amen. And the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Judging by the lack of public in the audience, I'm going to go with no public comment. I don't know. All right, discussion action items, tax collection report from Linebarger. Mr. Wirt. Thank you, sir.
Time. I'll do my best not to take up too much of your time. This is a report of our delinquent tax collection efforts. The reporting period is from September 1st, 2022 to the end of June of this year. So a little less than 4 years, but just roughly 4 years time. And during those 4 years, we've mailed 2,053 letters on your behalf. That's the first step of our collection process. And I want to be sure you understand that's not 2,053 letters to 2,053 different people. We have an aggressive mailing campaign that actually starts out very friendly. The first letter that goes out in July is, we notice you are delinquent in your property taxes. Must have been some oversight on your part. Please go down to the tax office, take care of that right away. Over the course of a year, we mail 7 times, and that 7th letter says, if you don't go down and take care of this, we're going to sue you. After we sue them, then they get notice of the lawsuit, of course. But after we take judgment, then they start getting letters that say, we've taken a judgment against you for the amount of your delinquent taxes plus court cost, abstract fees, and we're about to put your property up for auction. So if you want to keep your property, you need to come take care of this. And then that's the ultimate remedy. You can see there on the far right of this slide that we've sold 9 properties at auction on your behalf. In the last 4 years, we filed 45 new lawsuits on behalf of Maypearl ISD. We've taken 15 judgments. 25 cases have been dismissed because the delinquent taxpayer came in and paid. So over the last 4 years, we've collected $543,931, or $543,931 as a result of our efforts to collect those delinquent taxes. Y'all have some interesting information on this next slide, which we call the status of accounts. You'll notice that 40.45% of your delinquent roll, overall delinquent roll, is in deferral. And what that means is anybody over the age of 65 can go down to the appraisal district and say, I'm 65 years old and I want to defer the payment of my taxes. Those taxes continue to be billed and they continue to show up on your tax roll, but they don't have to be paid presently because they are deferred by law. The state legislature, agreed that was a good thing for people over the age of 65 in the state of Texas. Work all your life. We'll give you the ability to stay in your house so you can defer those taxes. The only time those taxes that are deferred become due is when they change their homestead exemption designation and they move, or they pass away. Once one of those two events happens, then the tax office has to send a bill, and they have their estate or themselves, if they're still living and they've moved, they have 180 days to pay those taxes. If they don't pay them after the 180 days, then they get sent to us for collection. But while they're in this present status of deferred, nobody can do anything to collect them. They could still go down and voluntarily pay them, but because they are legally entitled to that deferral, we can't do anything to collect those on your behalf. So 40.45%, that's a pretty significant amount of your delinquent tax roll. We typically see deferrals in other jurisdictions 20-25%. So y'all are pretty high. You'll also note that there's 7.57% of your delinquent roll that's in bankruptcy. That does not mean that we can't collect that. That just means it's going through the bankruptcy courts, and there might be a compromise of that tax amount depending upon how the bankruptcy rolls. So that affects it as well. 13.5% return mail. That means that, you know, for whatever reason, the appraisal district, the tax collector, they don't have a good address on these people. And so one of the things we do is we're constantly running skip traces, trying to find people. So when we get a return piece of mail, we're continually looking for them. And so while they're in that we're looking for them stage, obviously we're still working to collect it, but we're looking for them and not actually engaged in them. 12% or 11.5% of your roll is in an active lawsuit. That 17.66% you see down there for active collections, those are the ones that are just a couple of years old, maybe 3 years old at most, and we're sending out letters trying to collect those. And then you see that last section there, that 6.68%, they owe $500 or less. Those people are going to get letters, but we're not going to file suit on anybody that owes $500 or less, unless it's 15 years, getting up to 20 years. We're not going to file suit on that amount, because we can take a $500 problem and we can turn it into a $1,000 problem overnight with filing a lawsuit. And so rather than put people in that position, we try to give them, you know, the best chance they can have to pay that delinquent tax. Any questions about the status of the accounts? Okay. And I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have along the way. This shows the progress that we've made. And that year range over on the left-hand side, that's the delinquent tax year. And if you'll recall, on that delinquent tax calendar, appraisals go out, then there's an opportunity to protest. The certified roll happens generally July 27th, but tax bills are sent out October 1. They're technically due on October 1st when they're sent out, or they're due upon receipt, but the law says they're not technically delinquent until January 31st of the next year. So right now they're preparing to send out your 2026 taxes. Y'all are adopting your 2026 tax rate. Looks like today on the agenda. Those tax bills will go out October. The 2026 taxes, though, will not be delinquent until February 1 of 2027. So your 2025 taxes went delinquent February 1 of 2026. There's a strange little quirk in the law that penalty or interest begins to accrue on that delinquency as of February 1. But the attorney penalty that's added on for collecting isn't added on until July 1. So we don't actually get your delinquent roll until July, so almost 18 months after the tax year actually begins. So July 1, we started working on your 2026 delinquencies. I'm sorry, your 2025 delinquencies. So you can see here, when you look at that, your rollover 2022 was $195,000. 2023, 215,000. 2024, 176,000. You can see there that turnover is roughly 2.5% on average. 2023 was larger for some reason. But then that next column shows the balance as of June 30th, 2026. And so for 2022, we've collected 90% of that delinquent turnover. 2023, we've collected 92% of that delinquent turnover. And so far, working on the 2024s, we've collected just about 70% on that. And again, we're beginning to work on your 2025 delinquencies now. I will say, and this is on, I think the first two slides, that our collection efforts, it's a cost-free program to the district. You guys don't pay us. We get paid as a result of an add-on penalty to the delinquent amount. It's typically 15 or 20%. That amount is actually paid by the delinquent taxpayer. Okay, so it's nothing that comes out of your own pocket. It's a cost-free program to the school district. This slide shows your top 20 accounts. And you can see by looking at that current status column, you've got your two largest delinquent accounts in deferral. Again, there's nothing we can do to collect those, but we show them because they're technically on your delinquent roll. There's a couple more down there that are also deferred. This is your delinquent accounts from the 2024 delinquency. This is not an updated 2025 top 20 delinquent accounts. And the reason why we show you this one is because we'll show you that they're either in deferral, bankruptcy, or they've been paid, or they're in suit. We've got a judgment. There's two on there that say NOIS, and that means that we've sent them notice that we intend to sue them, and we'll be suing them in the next couple of months. Okay. Oftentimes, we don't put the names of the people that are in deferral, just simply because this is public record. But we started putting the names on there because, again, it is a matter of public record. You don't have to get that information from us. It's available from the tax office. So we started putting the names back on there. That's really all the information I have for y'all. I'm happy to answer any questions, though.
I know we're talking mainly about delinquent accounts, but are you seeing a big rise in non-delinquents for 65 and over deferring? Or is it a steady trend? What are you seeing? Or do you even have that data?
Well, the 41% that y'all have is high. Typically, I don't see any trends as far as that's happening across the state, but typically what that means is that you have an aging community. And as I know you guys are growing pretty good, but as more young people come into some of these developments, that 40% you'll start to see, get lower and lower.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing else?
No, we're good. Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Well, let me know, y'all. My information, on that last page, that's actually my cell phone number. So that's the best way to reach me. Call me, text me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all have. All right,
Will do.
see ya. See
Thank you,
Monday.
Mr. Work.
See you soon.
Thanks, sir.
All right, so next up is the Maypearl Budget Workshop 2026-2027. And so since we've kind of gone over a lot of what we've done with the proposed budget, I'm just going to run through some of the graphs and charts. So our district enrollment, you can see the trend there. We ended 25-26 with an enrollment of 1190. And our enrollments projections for this coming up school year looks a lot higher so far. And then when we look at the average daily attendance history, our 2025-2026 average daily attendance ended around 1118. Or, yeah. Sorry, those graphs don't have a number at the top, but you can see it's a little below the 1120 line there. And then if we look at our fund balance history, with the 24-25 audit, we began that year with a fund balance of $4,901,404, and then we ended 24-25 with $4,646,669. And so that's where we started with 25-26, and we're currently undergoing the audit for that fiscal year. And so we'll get that audit opinion and see where that ends with the ending fund balance. So then this slide was shared in June with you all. And so I've made some tweaks as we've learned some more information and got the certified values for our property values. And so you can see the basic allotments still $6,215 from the state of Texas per ADA. And then our 2026 estimate of value from the appraisal district was $898,960,303. And just remember that that is not the total taxable value, because they take into account freeze and the over 65 adjusted taxes. And so we end up getting a T2 value from the comptroller's office. That is what our levy is based on. And so then the 26-27 budget, we based on an ADA of 1118, just being conservative from where we ended the previous school year. We take into account the $140,000 homestead exemption and the increase to the 65 plus adjustment. And then we did get our maximum compressed rate. We have a preliminary rate from TEA of 59 cents. And so that was based on the local property values survey study that they do when we plug in our local property values from the appraisal district. And so that's the preliminary, and they'll come out with the official shortly. And then the total 26-27 estimated FSP, that's the foundation school program, the state aid that we get, is $9,059,817. And then the total estimated local revenue is $5,712,721.85. And then TRS on behalf, we estimate that at $714,309.91. And then our estimated SHARS, which is the federal funding, we're at $40,000 there. And then wanted to go over the proposed tax rate. And so this, of course, is just proposing it. It's not adopting tonight. We'll come back at the end of August to adopt the tax rate and adopt the budget. So tonight we're just going over proposed numbers. And so we have some legal requirements to discuss the law when it comes to the tax rate. And so the tax rate under House Bill 3 in 2020-2021, districts were allowed to add any pennies over $1 before the compression started. And so Maypearl ISD had a tax rate at that time of $1.04 because you were allowed to add up to 4 pennies without voter approval. And so we had done that, and so our tax rate was $1.04. And then, so now those 4 pennies continue on in perpetuity. And then House Bill 3 also allowed districts that had not utilized the additional pennies that were available through a TRE to increase the rate by 1 penny with unanimous board approval. And so the board did unanimously approve that additional penny in August of 2020. So that gives us the 5 golden pennies that we are allowed to add to our maximum compressed rate. And so for 26, 27, the maximum compressed rate is going to be 62.54, and the minimum is going to be, the floor is going to be 56.28. So Maypearl ISD has a preliminary MCR of 59 cents. And so the unanimous vote in 2020 still holds, and the 5 pennies are added. So the proposed M&O tax rate is 64 cents. When we look at the INS tax rate, there was some new legislation introduced in House Bill 2 here recently, Section 1.15, and it's now basically penalizing INS collections that's over the minimum required bond payment for the fiscal year. If you remember the last meeting with Jeff Robert, he explained kind of what's going on there. And so there's a little example. If your bond payment is $1,050,000, and say you get $100,000 from state aid for the hold harmless, and then you levy $1 million from INS tax collections. So then under this scenario, because you've levied $50,000 more than what was needed for your bond payment, the state would reduce that state aid by $50,000. So when we put it into terms with Maypearl ISD, our bond payment for 26-27 is going to be $2,865,032, and that's projected after we do the 2026 refunding that we've approved in the last meeting as well. And so our INS levy at 99% of tax collections should yield us $2,279,610, and then we should be getting state aid from the hold harmless at $585,422, which gives us enough for that bond payment without leaving money at the state level. And so that proposed INS tax rate is going to be 0.2734. So that gives us a proposed total tax rate of 0.9134. And then this is a tax rate history from the district, and you can see we have steadily declined year after year. And last year, the tax rate being around 94 cents, and this year being around 91, a little over 91 cents. Now, if we look at the 2025-2026 projected end of year stats, I guess you could say, our revenue, we're looking at ending with local at $5,535,376. At the state level, $10,126,179. And then federal for the SHARS program at $29,986. That number I am anticipating could go up because we finally did get our pricing resolved with TMHP and the HHSC. And so they're going to start paying us back on all those interim billings that we've been claiming for SHARS that weren't getting paid to us. So hopefully that will continue to go up. And so that total revenue comes out to $15,691,541. And again, this is just estimated as we're still continuing through the month of August. Then we have expenditures. So with that revenue and then our expected end of year expenditure budget at $16,098,894. You can see that that kind of leaves us with the difference of $407,353. That is the anticipated hit to the fund balance. Then if we go on and look at 2026, 2027 and the proposed budget, you can see a small version on the slide there, but then I've also printed them larger in the back of your packets there. And so that, yeah, of course. And then that has the the proposed general budget, we have a proposed child nutrition budget, and a proposed INS budget. And so that's where it breaks it down into all the different functions for our accounting structures. And so at the bottom of the general budget, you can see that we are estimating a deficit of $119,371. And so just the last slide to kind of go over some of the budget insights. We're working towards balancing the budget. We've cut back funds where we could, and this is also taken into account that we're providing a minimum of 2% raise to all staff. And so we're facing that estimated $120,000 deficit. We're also awaiting a determination of the NEFA application that we applied for, so that could bring us some funding as well. We don't have a number on it.
Oh, we don't have a number on the NEPA.
No,
No.
because it's a
Yeah.
pot for everybody. So there's a pot, and then depends on who qualifies, they'll divvy it out from there. So
We
there's
had
no-
a, didn't we have, do we have a guesstimate or no? Not really.
Because it depends on how many applications they get, because they have 150 million, I think, set aside for the whole state. And so that determines like how many districts apply for it, and they've also opened it up, like we were applying for it for our addition. So they're expecting a ton more applications from districts that are in the same situation.
Gotcha.
Can you clarify on the budget here, that facilities line item, if I'm just missing something here? I'm assuming that's capital improvements that went into that with all the building we've been doing, where it's 510 grand is what we spent in 2024, 25, 459 projected this year, and then 25,000 budgeted next year.
Let's see, facilities, yeah, so.
I'm assuming it's just capital improvements.
Yeah, that's capital improvements from 24, 25. Yeah, and I believe that was also a year that we didn't budget that. It was like those things that came along, you know, like the different repairs that get. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's hitting us with this budget this year is the elevators primarily. We also had a large payment for Dallas Mechanical doing the AC work at the primary admin building at the beginning of the year.
Got it. I just pointed out to be prepared for that, because it's, 2 years in a row with large expenses, those things happen, so, good.
Right. So that's
Josh, so I guess when do we vote on it? Is it September
so
or the regular August?
we'll take a motion tonight if you are inclined to do so, to have a proposed budget and a proposed tax rate. And then in our August 27th meeting later this month is when we'll do the official adoption. So the proposed is what's needed, so that way we can put it on our website and then put the newspaper publishing that we're gonna be adopting this tax rate and all that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Boone?
I wish the revenue was more for our kids. I mean, looking at that trend going for 2 years, income's gonna go up by maybe 100 grand on a $15 million budget. That's just not realistic for cost.
I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed 26-27 budget.
As presented?
As presented, sorry.
A second.
I think I put the presented for,
Ah, I got you. My bad. My dyslexic self didn't like it.
it was a grammar mistake on my end.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? All right, and then I'll make a motion to approve the proposed Maypearl ISD 2026 tax rate as follows. For maintenance and operations, a proposed rate of 64 cents, and for interest and sinking, a proposed rate of 0.2734 cents, with the total tax rate being 0.9134.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, all four. All right, and with that, there's nothing left on the agenda. With no dissent, then we adjourn.